Apologies have been received from Deputy Lisa Chambers and Deputy Maurice Quinlivan. Can I remind members, visitors and those in the public gallery to please ensure their mobile phones are switched off or in flight mode for the duration of this meeting, as they interfere with the broadcasting equipment even when on silent mode. Members are reminded of the long-standing parliamentary practice to the effect that members should not comment on, criticise or make charges against a person outside the Houses or an official, either by name or in such a way as to make him or her identifiable. We will now proceed to consideration of Sectoral Employment Order Construction Sector 2019 in accordance with Dáil's Standing Order 84A 4K and Shannon's Standing Order 71 3K. The Sectoral Employment Order Construction Sector 2019 was referred to this committee by order of the Dáil and the Shannon on the 14th of May. The committee has been asked to send a message to both houses not later than Thursday the 16th of May, stating that it has completed its consideration of the order. I would like to welcome Minister Breen and his officials to the meeting and thank them for the briefing material provided. I now invite Minister Breen to make his opening statement.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Chair. Indeed, it's great to be back here again, and I'm here, as you know, for the sectoral order for the construction sector, and I'm very pleased to be present for the committee for the consideration of the draft sectoral employment order for the construction sector, as I've already said. This draft order is being made under Section 17 of the Industrial Relations Amendment Act 2015. And the intention is that this order will confirm the rates of pay, the pension and the sick pay entitlements for defined workers in the construction sector. This is the second such order to be made. The first sectoral employment order for the construction sector was issued in 2017. The current matter before the Labour Court came by way of an application by the Building and Allied Trades Union, Connect Trade Union, OPATSI, O-P-A-T-S-I Trade Union, SIP2 Trade Union, Unite, the union pursuant to Section 14 of the Chapter 3 of Part 2 of the Industrial Relations Amendment Act 2015. The unions requested the Court to examine the terms and conditions of workers of the class, type or group to which their request relates in the given sector. Which they submitted is a defined economic order for the purposes of the 2015 Act. I can say to the committee, having examined the submissions and the accompanying supporting materials, the Court was satisfied that the applicants are substantially representative of the workers of the particular class, group or type in the economic sector in respect of which the request is expressed to apply. As per the Act, the Court then, as required to do, as I said, published its intention to undertake an examination of the unions and the employer's request, and invited submissions from interested parties. Written submissions were received from 5 interested parties: the Construction Sector Federation, the 5 applicants, trade unions, the Construction Workers Pension Scheme, and Ms. Dolores Rogers and the Small Firms Association. 3 were in favour of making the order, 1 was neutral on the proposition, and 1 contended that such order should not be made. Public hearing was held on the 22nd of March 2019, and all interested parties were given an opportunity to be heard. Having considered the matter, the Labour Court reached a decision to make a recommendation. In making the recommendation, the Labour Court had to consider the factors set out in Section 16(2) of the Act. This includes the potential impact of the making of an order on levels of employment and unemployment in the identified economic sector, the potential impact on competitiveness in the economic sector concerned, and that the sectoral employment order would be binding on all workers and employers in the economic sector concerned. Again, in accordance with the Act, the recommendation was submitted to me as Minister for approval on the 25th of April 2019. Can I say, Chairman, I consider the recommendations in line with the terms of the 2015 Act, relying on the statutory report outlining the Labour Court's deliberative process in reaching its recommendation. And I notified the Court on the 9th of May 2019 that I accepted its recommendations. A draft of the order was laid before the Houses on the 9th of May 2019, as required by Section 17(4) of the 2015 Act. I hope that the committee will recognise the importance of ensuring stability in employment terms and conditions in this sector, and I will refer to the matter back to both Houses of the Oireachtas for approval so that the order can be given legal effect. When the order comes into effect, their terms will be binding across the sectors, and enforceable by the WRC, the Workplace Relations Commission. The construction sector order, I think it's important to point out, will be effective, not now, but from the 1st of October 2019. And in doing so, this will revoke the existing SEO for that sector, SE 455 of 2017. Thank you very much indeed, Chairperson.
Thank you, Minister Breen. Are there any questions in relation to it, Senator McLaughlin?
Some comments and some questions. Minister, my party welcomes these proposals from the Labour Court, and as you know, it will see the minimum wage rates for construction workers rise by 5.4% and for electrical contractors by 2.7%. Chairperson, workers across the island in many different sectors are struggling to make ends meet due to the spiralling cost of housing and other costs such as childcare and insurance. It is vitally important we support workers, and fair wage rates are central to this. This approach of employers and unions working with the Labour Court for a fair outcome is welcome, and we support these two sectoral employment orders. I appreciate business groups express their concern that these rises could impact the cost of doing business and construction costs. So the government must do more to help reduce business costs in other areas such as insurance. We can have fairly paid workers and successful, profitable businesses. They are not mutually exclusive. With this in mind, Minister, and through the Chairperson, I would also encourage you to revisit the current minimum wage system in Ireland and put in place measures to move towards a living wage. The national minimum wage is too low and is resulting in workers living in poverty. We must ensure this is not the case, and a living wage is essential to this. So I just wanted to make those comments in line with what we're doing today.
Sorry. Senator, are you finished?
I am indeed.
Yeah, Deputy Neville?
I'd also like to welcome what's happening today as well, and just make reference to the fact, particularly in the construction sector, apprentice construction sector, to welcome the fact that the construction sector has recovered or is recovering. Obviously, we're using this to try and attract more talent and more workers into the sector. The market's reflecting that, and obviously a lot of this is a knock-on effect. We do need to balance salaries or wages against what the business challenges are out there as well. You don't want to kill the goose that lays the golden egg, so it's trying to find that balance. I mean, I worked on a minimum wage for a year myself behind bars and everything, so I can see it from both sides, and I also worked in commercial roles and businesses, and it's about finding that balance that's best for everybody. But I do welcome the legislation as it's coming through, and share some of what has been said by my colleague here, but also to be mindful of middle income earners as well in this current economy, that we need to start looking at creative ways of maximising take-home pay for people, that you work hard, you get rewarded for it, and it's something I very much want to drive, and something I very much believe in it. The harder you work, the more money you make, or the more pay you get, the more disposable income you have, and it's balancing that with taxes as well, and I think that's something we need to look at as well going forward.
Very valid point, Deputy Neville. There's no doubt about it that work has to pay, and I think this will certainly help in that respect. We also have to be mindful. We spent a lot of time last year looking at the cost of doing business, so we have to try and get the balance right. Minister?
Yeah, well, thanks very much, and thanks to both speakers, Deputy McLaughlin and Deputy Neville here in relation to this. Can I say, first of all, I think the measures here are an important step in, first of all, in securing stability and growth in that very critical sector at the moment. I think they also protect, the working conditions, and above all else, I think, as Deputy Neville has said, they maintain the attractiveness for the sector as a career, because we know ourselves that there's a shortage of people in this sector at the moment, and we have to try and make it more attractive for people to go into this area. I think that's important indeed. I suppose what's the most important thing about it is the SEOs is that the Labour Court is independent, and it makes its recommendation when it consults everybody concerned. So I think the SEOs have brought very much good harmonious relations over the last couple of years, particularly in the construction sector, where in the past we had a lot of strikes, ongoing strikes. So I think they have proved that they're worked, and I know there's a lot of bodies out there at the moment would love to have an SEO to protect their workers out there. I know there are a number of groups at the moment trying to get enough members to ensure that they can have a CEO so that they can be seen to represent the majority of the group they work on. Deputy McLaughlin mentioned a few areas there in relation to insurance. I think and I know they're outside this, but just to touch them for you, Deputy McLaughlin, I think the measures that we're putting into place in relation to insurance will pay off. It's not something you can solve overnight. There's no silver bullet out there. But I think the measures that we are putting into place as a government in relation to the Personal Injuries Board and the measures that are being put into place in relation to the reviews and the new compensation rates, all that I think will be important, and I think just give us a little bit more time on that. Deputy Neville are in relation to the Low Pay Commission. Obviously, that's an independent body that works separate of government, and again, that's the reason why it was put into place. And as you know yourself, the Low Pay Commission is made up of workers from both the unions and from the business employers and academics as well. And it does it plays a very important role. As you know, the living wage here is voluntary. We don't get involved in this, and I suppose it's up to the Low Pay Commission each year to decide what the minimum wage should be. When they decide the factor, again, they do a lot of consultation. They go around the country. They consult people in relation to this. So again, I think that's working well, and I think the fact that our industrial relations here is voluntary, I think, is another sign that the harmony is important here. So I think what we've been doing, the Act, 2015 Act, has been an important act, and this SEO again was sought for by the contractors concerned, and again the Labour Court made their independent judgment in this. My only role in this, and I think it's important to point out to all of you here today, is to ensure that the Section 2015 Act was put into place, and that the Labour Court did their job in accordance to the Act. So again, I just want to thank all the members, and particularly Deputy Senator McLaughlin, as I constantly call you Deputy, actually, because I served with Senator McLaughlin, because I served with him before in a previous role in a committee here. But thanks Senator McLaughlin and Deputy Neville, who's a really good attender here at these meetings, for their input into today's meeting, and thank you again. As usual, Chairman, thank you for everything and your full cooperation.
Thank you very much, Minister, and I do believe it is important to state that the Labour Court is an independent body, and that you took on board the recommendations from the Labour Court after they carried out their deliberations. And I suppose I was struck by the fact that there was only 5 written submissions and 3 were in agreement, so it seems to be the consensus that most people were in agreement with this. That completes the Committee's consideration of the Sectoral Employment Order Construction Sector 2019. The Clerk to the Committee will convey the following message to the Clerk of the Dáil and the Clerk of the Seanad. The Joint Committee on Business, Enterprise and Innovation has completed its consideration of the following order in draft: Sectoral Employment Order Construction Sector 2019. I would like to thank the Minister of State and his officials for attending the meeting today. Thank you very much, Minister Breen. I now propose that we go into private session. Is that agreed?